Welcome to everyone. We're so glad you're here. I'm still letting a few people in. This is our professional development day, and we're so pleased that we have you here with us for summer 2022. This marks the official midpoint of the summer. It feels like we just started, but at the same time, here we are making excellent progress. And I'm hearing good news as you are progressing this summer. At this point in Professional Development Day, we just want to welcome you. We're going to kick it off with Donna Chapman Williams with a welcome from her and pass it around the staff.
Hi, welcome everybody. It's good to see you all again. We are, as Amy said, just about at that midpoint. 4th of July weekend is coming up, and I know that some of you have signed up for the Potomac Cruise this weekend, which is going to be exciting. And then some of you I know are going to enjoy the fireworks this weekend, which is also going to be exciting. And then I know that also some of you have a few administrative matters that you're asking me questions about, and that leads to questions for others of you who aren't asking questions, but I'll get to all of you. Especially with the, if you're living on campus, you may have questions about your housing charge. Some of your AU students who maybe don't see the tuition charge yet. So just a couple of things like that, but I'm getting to those. Any other questions too, just feel free to ask me questions about anything that's, still lingering out there. And then transcripts are coming up at the end of the summer. So just, pay attention to your email and, we'll be getting to some of those administrative matters. But I will pass this off to, I guess, to Adam.
Or Terrell.
It's Terrell, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you again. I hope you're having a great summer in DC. I don't get to work with you very much, but I'm excited to be with you today to talk about elevator pitches in a little while. So nice to see you.
And don't forget, if you are interested in doing a future semester with us, particularly if you're from a partner school, Terrell would love to have that conversation with you. We would love to have a conversation with you. I'm going to spoil the surprise and tell you that you're likely to get into the program. And so we'd love to have you for another semester.
Yeah, please email me if that is something that you're thinking about. I'd be happy to talk to you and let you know who your rep is at your school, who you should talk to there. So my email is very easy, taustin@american.edu.
All right, Emily.
Hi, everyone. I really don't work with you all that much either, but I guess follow us on social media if you haven't already, and always feel free to share any photos or parts of your experience over the summer with us, and we would love to feature that in our social media or any other communications we send out to partners or prospective students.
And we now have a new academic advisor who just joined our unit this week. And so you might have some interaction with her at the end of the summer. And if you come back and join us for the fall. So Camila Alway, Camila, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. So like Adam said, I am the new academic advisor. It is very nice to meet all of you here virtually today. I just recently started this week, so I am catching up to speed on everything. But it is very nice to meet you. And if you ever have any questions or need anything, please feel free to reach out. I can't wait to get to know you guys. So it's very nice to see you today.
Good.
One last housekeeping thing as we dive in, know that I did email today the link to the latest schedule for Professional Development Day. So do crack that open, take a look at the link. You'll see we have a very well-rounded overview of how to be an effective intern, beginning with our session with Adam Anthony. We'll also then hear from Michael Hayes, an alum of Washington Semester who currently works in the State Department. Following that, we're going to have AU grad schools give you tips on admissions, on how to leverage scholarships, how to get into schools, and identify financial aid, among other topics. But we're going to also have a couple career development activities sprinkled in there as well. We'll begin our session with Adam Anthony's session on how to intern like a pro. Over to you, Adam.
Good. Thank you, Amy. And I'm so glad you all joined us today. And I think during orientation, I mentioned that it was really important that you check your email. And I think I heard twice just in the last 5 minutes where people were saying, check your email. So please stay on top of your AU email, because that's the way we're able to communicate with you. Okay, so I have a presentation. I'm going to be talking a lot at you, and I apologize for that. It is not a very interactive presentation, but it's full of information that's going to help you today, tomorrow, your internship, the next time you are engaging with people in your internship. And so, it is not the kind of thing that you will typically hear at your home school. Maybe if you dig in with your career center, they might have something on how to actually succeed in your internship. And so this is very specific information based on a lot of experience that we have had with students here at AU, and then previously that I had in my other role at William & Mary, students navigating the workplace as an intern. And so I think it's going to give you some very practical, some very specific things to do that you can start doing tomorrow. Okay, and so, you all have my email address, so do not hesitate. I'm going to send this presentation out to you in PDF form. And so you're, of course, welcome to take notes. I will have a little bit of time for questions at the end, I think, but please send me emails with questions. I'm here waiting for your emails. Now I'm waiting for your emails, and I'm happy to take all questions, and particularly situations. Your faculty member is the first person to go to. If you've got a general question or whatever, they will elevate things to Amy and then maybe to me. But just specific questions about this presentation, I'm happy. I'll bring in your faculty member in the conversation, and we'll help you work things out. That's what we're here for. That's one of the reasons why you're doing this program, is to have this support to help you resolve problems with your internship. All right, so I want to start off. I'm a big fan of Rome, Greece and Rome, actually, ancient Greece and Rome, and big fan of Julius Caesar, not for the fascistic parts of him, but he was actually a very thoughtful writer and had a lot of interesting ideas. Besides the part about taking over as a dictator for the Roman Empire. And he said something that I thought was very interesting: experience is the teacher of all things. And I think that's a great reflection about what you're doing this summer, that this is a different kind of program and a different kind of summer. And your internship in DC, you're learning different things, and hopefully it's the kind of things that are going to help you progress in a career, that you're happy with, and find success and find fulfillment. And so I love this quote. I think about it all the time, that sometimes the only way to learn is to do. And so that's something I thought you would be helpful to reflect on. All right, so as a preview, I'm going to give you advice on 5 topics. The first is the importance of developing relationships in the workplace. The second is the concept of paying your dues in the workplace. The third is on professionalism. The fourth is on engaging with your assignments. And the last is managing your schedule. And so again, very practical advice that you can use tomorrow and throughout the summer and in future internships that are going to help you be your colleagues will value you, and your supervisor will value you, and you will stand out in your workplace. All right, so the first concept of developing relationships is something that I don't think many people talk to students about when they do an internship. So some things that you're dealing with. In DC, there is a long culture of undergraduate interns. A lot of people say that the Washington Semester Program, which started student internships in the mid-60s, really started the Washington, D.C. Internship culture. And, but suffice it to say that everybody in Washington has been an intern. And so that's great. It's also an issue for you because it a lot of times leads to objectification. We have had students who their colleagues have called them the intern. Instead of calling them by their given name, they've said, hey, why don't we give this to the intern? And that's not good. That's not a good thing to have happen. And it's not what we like to have for it to happen to you. But understand that the issue is that there has been an intern in your desk last summer and last fall and last spring, and there will be somebody in the future. And so a lot of times students end up falling into a bit of a trap. Also, interns you're just going to be here for a couple more weeks. And I don't have to really get to know you as a person or get to really understand what you want and what your goals are, because you're going to be gone. And that's just a fact. And it is something that you need to deal with. And I'm going to give you advice on how to deal with it. Also understand that there are structural barriers to you in an organization. There might be a unit in your organization that is a partner unit of yours, and they might be doing great work that you're really interested in. And there's maybe territorialism, and your supervisor doesn't want you doing that work because your supervisor wants you available to support his or her project. And so, so again, this is a problem that you might or might not face, but the key is, for me, that your ability to develop relationships in the workplace can help with all of these objections, all of these barriers. What it allows you to do when you get to know your supervisor and get to know your colleagues on a professional level, it allows them to customize your internship experience. And here at American University in the Washington Semester Program, we believe that the supervisor is a bit of an instructor in your experience on how you're learning in the workplace. And it's why we include your evaluation into the syllabus and into the grading, because your supervisor has a role in instructing you on professionalism. And so when you connect with them and when you connect with your colleagues, it allows you to break down these barriers and to provide you more of what you need and what you want in your internship. So I'll explain all of this. Also, a connection allows you to find out information about this field that you can't find anywhere else. And so you're in your internship now and you're evaluating whether this is a field you want to enter after you graduate. And when you engage with your colleagues and your supervisor in person as a person, they're able to instruct you on things that you might or might not like about the field that you're in. And you might find out things that this is your dream field. This is amazing. This has been such a revelation to me. This is what I was meant to do. Or, you know what? I don't like anything about this field. Both of those outcomes are pretty good. And when you're able to connect with it at a human level, that is a benefit that you'll be able to derive. All right, so how do you do that? How do you connect with your colleagues? So the planned activities that your organization is doing, the lunch, happy hour, birthday parties, some of them might be virtual, some of them might be in person. That is a great way to connect with people. You can look at it as forced fun, which sometimes it is, but you can also look at it as an opportunity to have conversations with work colleagues that happen very naturally. I distinctly remember when I was an intern a long time ago, I was really interested in working for political campaigns. That was my focus. And I was working, doing research for an organization that was fine. I liked the job, but there were a lot of former campaign people there. And I remember meeting one over lunch and starting to talk to him about campaign stuff. I knew he had worked on a presidential campaign 4 years before. And I ended up getting a job and going to Iowa and working for him based on a conversation over lunch, over pizza. And so I'm really glad that I had that conversation with that person, because it really enabled me to find something that I was truly passionate about. So those planned activities, they're all awkward, especially for you, because you don't know the folks and you don't really know the story. But at the end of the day, if you go and you're able to have a conversation with somebody about something, it gets them to know you on a human level, and it might help you get to know them and make decisions about whether this organization is the right organization for you or the field is the right field for you. So my message is, they might feel like they're optional, but if you really want to take advantage of this internship, those things are not optional. And also, students will often say, well, I'm 19 years old, I can't go to the happy hour. You definitely can go and just not drink, and just drink water, and or if it's they mark your hand and you can't order anything, that problem students have been facing that for many, many years. And so you can go to the happy hour, you just don't drink, and it works out. A lot of times we're connecting with our colleagues over Zoom, and there's always at the start that awkward 3 or 4 minutes when people are signing on, or people are late, who are we working for, or sometimes it's just you and another person, you're waiting for a third person. That is a good time to be able to just chit chat. What'd you do this weekend? Oh, I went and saw DC United play. Oh my gosh, I'm a soccer fan too. That's amazing. Yeah. I went to the Women's World Cup a couple of years ago, and I did actually. I'm a big women's soccer fan, and that gets an opportunity for you to be able to connect with somebody on an issue of common interest. And especially if you remember it, it's a great way to just make an authentic connection. I'm not talking about like being all, plotty and saying, oh, I'm going to be in a meeting with so-and-so and I'm going to, find a way to connect with them because I want to get ahead. I'm just talking about just general human connection. And I'm going to give you some ideas on how to do that. I do this from time to time. I will send this out to our group, and other people will too. Did you see this? We run academic programs for students, and the news came out that Johns Hopkins, another university that does it, runs a program for high school students. They ended up canceling programs for, I think, like 800 students this summer. And it was some cases, the students were flying to their destination, and Hopkins ended up canceling the program. And so I sent that out to our group yesterday. And so I thought it was an interesting discussion point. And I don't know if people had seen it or not. And we had a brief discussion about it. That kind of thing is really welcome. Also, if you connect with somebody and you know that they're a women's soccer fan, the US women's team played last night. I DVR'd it, so let's not talk about what happened because I haven't seen the game yet. But it might be an opportunity. If you're a soccer fan, it might be a great opportunity to just connect with somebody and say, hey, did you watch that match last night? That was amazing. And, blah, 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 blah. And then finally, if you feel like you have connected with somebody and it's an authentic connection, it's totally appropriate to ask for a coffee, a virtual coffee, or an actual coffee if you're in person, to ask them for more information. The person that I met back when I was an intern, I did follow up with him. I went by his office and we didn't have a coffee, but I just said, do you have a little bit of time? We can talk about what being in the campaign is like. And I'm really glad I did it, because when he went to the campaign and then the position opened, he thought about me immediately. And so it's totally appropriate. And if your coworker has a beating human heart in their chest, they will say yes. If you say, do you think there's some time, maybe, on a Friday where we could just talk for a half hour, I could get your career advice? No human in the world is going to say no to that. And it feels awkward to do, but chances are they did it themselves, and they also have done it with other interns. And people love to give advice. And you'll find out things about the organization, about them, about the field that you would never have known, you couldn't Google. So totally appropriate to do it. I really encourage you to do it. Okay, so that's the connection point. I have a little, this is a little interactive thing. This is my desk at work, and I want you to pretend that you have come in to talk to me about an assignment. And I have 5 conversation starters here in my desk area. And I want you to you can just unmute yourself and just shout it out. What's a conversation starter that you could see that we could connect with? There's at least 5.
I mean, the very first 2 that are the most obvious to me is the LGBT flag, and then you have a picture of children. So the very first thing that I would do is I would talk about your children first.
There you go, Andrew. That's great. All right, Alice, you raised your hand. Do you have another one?
Hey, that's a really cool soccer ball. Do you like women in sports?
Thank you. Excellent. All right, there are definitely 2 more. They're a little more subtle.
Do you want to get coffee?
Yeah, well, look, what's in the lower left corner there of the screen?
Well, a coffee mug.
Coffee mug. I'm crazy about coffee. And so if you were too, that is definitively a way that we could connect. And it'd be a great way to say, listen, I would love for you to, I would love to get your career advice. I'm crazy about coffee. Do you think we could go sometime? All right, there's one more, and it's super subtle, and you might not appreciate it, but
Ours? Like I see the key.
Keys. Every person in Washington loves to talk about their commute, loves it. And here I have to drive, and I had to park, and I got stuck on the BW Parkway, and it was so terrible. And so great with COVID, the one good thing about COVID is there's no more blah, 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 traffic. And so you're commuting to your internship. Chances are you have a better commute than most people. And so that is a way to connect with people. It is a universal way to connect with people. So again, I'm not talking about like making fake friends here. I'm not talking about you buttering somebody up or brown nosing somebody. I'm just talking about connections that you can make. And when you make these connections, it allows people to see you as a person and as, standing out again from this intern culture. And it allows you to get to the point where you can really maximize this educational experience with your internship. It is not automatic, but this is a method that you can use to connect. And especially now, especially when we're remote or, where people are people haven't been connecting in a long time. So this kind of connection can really be helpful to you. All right, so I think I made that pretty clear. The important thing is I can tell you is if you were able to make one connection, one professional connection for this internship this summer, then you'll have done better than most people. So don't feel like you gotta, generate 500 connections. If you can connect with one person, and that could be your supervisor, that allows you to maybe get a recommendation for the future or a connection for another job or something, then you'll have succeeded. So don't feel like this is an onerous task. All right, I want to talk about the concept of paying your dues. This is, again, related to the DC internship culture. There is definitely an ethic where people feel like, especially people who have been an intern in the past, feel like that interns have to pay their dues. And what it means is that there are people who think that the intern should know their place and should be comfortable being at the bottom of the pecking order, and the bottom of the hierarchy. And needless to say, you can already tell in my voice that I think that's all a bunch of nonsense, but understand that that is out there. And so the bottom line is what it really means is how willing are you to do what needs to be done in the office, and what the organization needs from you. And also, it's related to respect. I'm going to give you another soccer example. As you can tell, soccer is near and dear to my heart. I'm not a very good player. I'm a very good fan, but not a very good player. And I played in the men's league for about 5 years, and I was the worst player on the field, and I knew it, and everybody knew it. So when that ball would roll out and go past the goal and go into the woods, I would gladly go get it. Or if someone needed to sub out and I was on the field, I wanted to sub in and play, I would sub myself out. And so what it meant was that I was willing to do what needed to be done for the good of the game and good of the team. And I'm not telling you that you have to do that, but it was important to me to get the respect of my colleagues. So that's the operating principle here. People are looking to see what you as a newcomer can do to gain the respect of your colleagues in the organization. So I'm going to tell you a story about an intern that I had when I was at William & Mary, who was one of the best interns I've ever had. And she was helping me start the core study in Washington program for William & Mary. And I was worried about a great deal of things. I had a whole list of things that I had to set up for our students. And our faculty member asked about library access. And it was number 30 out of 30 things that I was thinking about. And so we brought it up during a meeting, and she said, oh, you know, I worked at the library on campus, and I know all about the ILL process. And I went, ILL process? And it turns out every university has one. And you can work through Kogod, our library, to reach out to your homeschool library and order a book. And your homeschool library will stick it in the mail and deliver it to our library, and then you can pick it up at our library. And that exists for every university. And it was, again, number 30 out of 30. She said, you know what I'll do is I'll put together a fact sheet for the students on this process. And I said, great. And so 2 days later, she came back with a fact sheet. This is the AU's fact sheet. This is obviously at William & Mary, but it was perfect. And I took exactly what she did and I put it on her website, and it solved a problem for me that was very low priority. But what it did do was connect us, show me her enthusiasm for the position, but also I trusted her because she did a wonderful job on the assignment. I literally took exactly what she wrote and put it on the website. I edited it, of course, I looked at it, but she gained my respect through that one process. It was not a glamorous thing. It was like going in the woods to fish out the soccer ball, but she gained my respect and showed her capacity. So my advice to you is, you know, you might have to go make copies and or go get coffee. And that's the reality of being an intern. It should not be a large or even a medium-sized percentage of what you're doing. It should be a small percentage of what you're doing. But when you go make copies for somebody and you do a good job and you do it quickly, and it's a little thing, but it gains the respect of your supervisor or the person you're doing it for. So my advice to you is to find your ILL-like project. Find something that you can do that will create, you know, this increased opportunity for you to gain respect from your colleagues. Okay, so developing relationships, gaining the respect of your colleagues. A very important part to understand about internship culture in DC is the lack of professionalism from many students in the field. There is a pretty good chance that the person who occupied your desk before you was not very professional. and the person who occupied your desk after you might not have been that professional. Our students, we just don't have that problem at all. We truly don't. You really, when you come into this program, you really represent for your school, for AU, for the program. But there are many places just students have not had the motivation, or they're interested in the social aspects of being in Washington and not in getting ahead. So, so that's important for you to know, because people are expecting the worst from you. The great news is when they don't get it, the worst from you, then they're going to be really pleased. It's actually called the halo effect and the reverse halo effect. And so when you don't show up to work hungover and and fall asleep at your desk, all of a sudden you must be great. And when you show the skills that you have in terms of writing and research and networking and showing interest and connecting, then all of a sudden that you're boosted way above the intern who was at your desk the previous summer. So here are some specific pieces of advice I can give you in terms of professionalism. Dressing is a very loaded topic. I'm not going to pretend to give anybody advice about clothes to wear. The only thing I can say is when you're in the office, you've already, chances are, if you're going to be in the office, you've already been there. Just look around and try to dress a little bit more conservatively than your colleagues, and you'll be in good shape. You'll notice I've got a fake background back here. I'll either fake it or blur it. I think that is a more professional look than having your background just be your apartment or your messy bedroom or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but it sort of does. I will try and blur whenever possible, even with my colleagues. Sometimes I forget, but it's just a good look. One thing I can recommend to you, you're going to hear and you'll be involved with gossip, and just don't participate in it at all. There's nothing good that comes from it. If you're in a meeting where people are gossiping, just listen and don't say a word. It's a bad form, and it can definitely get you in trouble. Remember that as close as you are with people in the office and you get to be, remember that you're not with your friends, and you are, there is just an expectation of a level of professionalism there that transcends, that, permeates the workplace. So remember that to use language and to approach people, not in a way that you would with your friends or your siblings or whatever. There is a thing that has developed over the last 3 years, which is showing up to Zoom sessions on time. And at least at AU, I think we are pretty good. And in our unit, we're very good at starting when we need to start. And so it's my advice to you to keep a great calendar and make sure you're on time for all presentations, all conversations. I actually try to get on early, and then it's an opportunity to chit chat with somebody. That's a great opportunity to ask somebody for coffee. Get on 2 minutes before, and that person might be on the call, and that's a great opportunity to connect. Your job is to learn in this internship, and to decide, your number one job is to decide if this is a job for you, permanent job, or this field is for you. So keep your eyes and ears open. Lots of people, I'm guilty of doing it. If a part of a meeting turns away from what I'm interested in or what I need to worry about, I definitely start doing work. It's a bad habit of mine. I will listen with half an ear, but I won't listen. I won't be fully present. And it's my advice to you to be fully present during these meetings, because every meeting, every conversation is a learning opportunity for you with one question in mind: is this the field for you? And you might hear something that might mean this organization really is fantastic, or you might hear something to say, this is just not right. And both of those things you'll miss if you're, answering emails. Try and keep great notes on important meetings. chances are going to be invited into meetings, whether in person or online, and you're not going to have much of a role. So take notes. It's a great way to occupy yourself. And I think you can learn more when you write, and you'll hear acronyms, and you'll hear this acronym 5 times. And if you write it down, then you can go afterwards and Google it and say, what is that all about? And it's a learning opportunity for you. So as much as possible, especially if you don't have a role, just take notes on things. It's really important for me as a supervisor, when I have an intern or a grad assistant, that they're not struggling in the dark. And I am super open to helping our interns or our grad assistants because I don't want them to waste their time. We don't have the capacity to have time wasted. I'd rather they ask me and I could solve their problem in 10 seconds, as long as they've tried to solve it. Don't call up your supervisor and ask them for directions. Google the directions. But if you've got something that they give you on an assignment, ask them for their help so that you're not struggling in the dark. It's important, and I think particularly over Zoom, it's very easy to do, but make sure you're not interrupting somebody. I will always, if I do it by accident, I will always say, please go ahead. Please, I'm very sorry. It happens all the time. And so it's just a little common thing, but it is a big part of professionalism. All right, so I've got a few minutes left here, and I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but this is my advice to you on how to deal with an assignment. It is very important that you are able to engage with your supervisor on a series of levels, that you have an open and communicative relationship with them, and that when they give you assignments, that you're able to process them. And so it is not an exaggeration to say that the constructive relationship you have with your supervisor will contribute to the success as an intern. They are literally going to fill out an assignment at the end of the summer that's going to factor into your grade. That's obviously important, but also your ability to learn from them in the future, to use them as a reference, that's going to be affected by that as well. And so the more professionally you engage with them, the more seriously you're going to be taken, and the chances are the better your relationship you're going to have. So a couple things. When you get an assignment, definitely take interest in it. You're there to learn, right? And so the young woman who was my intern, who took interest in the ILL project, she really took interest in it, and it couldn't be less of an interesting topic than interlibrary loans, but she took it seriously, and I really appreciate it, such that I remembered it 20 years later. Communicate with your supervisor on progress about things. Like I was saying before, if you're stuck on an assignment, then your supervisor needs to know that, and they might help get you unstuck, but be communicative on that topic. Determine if they're open to that, obviously, but try and be communicative. It is fine to ask for feedback on how you've done on an assignment. And you can simply say the phrase, is this helpful? Or are you happy with this? Or did I get this right? And that kind of feedback is valuable, very valuable to you. And it will help me form an impression about you. Things might be messy, the situation's messy, and I ask you for this assignment, I don't really know what I want, and you give me something, and then you say, is this what you were looking for? And I'll say, yeah, you know what, this is exactly what I was looking for, so thank you very much. That's great feedback for you. That's an A on an assignment. So within reason, do what they ask you to do. You're not going to do anything that's objectionable. You're not going to do anything that is contra to your values. If they do ask you to do that, that is the opportunity for you to connect with your faculty member and or us. But if they ask you to do something, do it and do a good job. That's, I think, the bottom line. A lot of times they're not going to ask you for things. And so keep your eyes open and suggest things for yourself. Hey, would it be helpful if I did this? Would it be helpful if I did that? When you see your supervisor sweating, metaphorically sweating, that is a great opportunity to ask how you can be helpful. I was definitely sweating over the fact that I had not done anything on the ILL, and I was not going to because I had 29 other priorities. And the student stepped in, she saw me sweating over that, and the intern, and she did it. And so that kind of help, that kind of situation can really earn the gratitude of your supervisor. Oh my God, thank you so much. Yes. Can I please hand this over to you? I cannot get to it. Sure, absolutely. I know it's not glamorous, but I'm happy to help. That's the fantastic element of attitude. And I will guarantee you that when my boss says, how's the intern doing? I'll say, well, the intern's name is Jane. First off, please don't call her the intern. I won't say that. But what I will say is they're doing great. They really are stepping up and helping me get things off my plate. And so I really appreciate they've got a great attitude. All right, so now specifically, you get an assignment from your supervisor, and this is my suggestion on how you deal with it. So you get the assignment on a Monday, and do not leave that room without every detail that you can possibly think of about the assignment. And also you have to get the deadline. If they do not if they do not mention the deadline, then you have to ask, when is this due? I don't know why but it's happened to me where people said, I need you to do this. And then the whole conversation, okay, goodbye. And I'll be like, when is it due? When do you need this? So you cannot get an assignment without asking for a deadline. On Tuesday, send a brief note to your supervisor. And this is your opportunity to ask any follow-up questions. I got to do a little work on this and I'm on track, or I got to do a little work on this. Do you want this or that? How do you want it? Do you want it in Excel? Do you want it in Word? That kind of thing. You really only get one chance to do that though. On Thursday, contact them again and say, I'm on track for Friday morning. And then Thursday evening, you're actually going to finish it and you're going to send it to them. And you're going to say, here it is, I'm happy to discuss. And what you've done is what Amazon does, which is called under promise and over deliver. And so Amazon always tells you you're going to get something on Friday, and then you get it on Wednesday and you're like, Amazon. Well, that's what you're going to do to your supervisor. You're going to tell them you're going to get it to them on Friday, and you're actually going to get it to them on Thursday evening. And so you've bought them 12 hours to be able to look at it and process it. And then on Friday, you're going to say, is that what you wanted? Is this what does this work for you? And that's an opportunity for them to say, yes, thank you so much. It's exactly what I wanted. And by the way, thank you for buying me 12 hours. So again, this does not apply to every assignment. Sometimes you're going to have to turn it around in 12 hours, 6 hours, 2 hours. But this process of communication is the most efficient in terms of time efficiency, and then with a cross of that of value. You're not asking them a ton of questions, you're asking them the right kinds of questions, and you're feedbacking them so that they can be confident that they're going to get it on Friday when they need it. And it's going to show up the way they want it to show up. So if you need to take parts of this, take it, but just this is the way I like to proceed. And if you proceed this way, you will really impress your supervisor.
And Adam, I just want to salute you on these great comments while I also let you know that our auspicious alum, Michael Hayes, has arrived.
All right.
He has a hard stop at 2. So
all right. Well, I'm going to send the rest of this to you. There's some very specific advice that you can do in terms of managing your remote schedule. And I'm going to stop share and I'm going to hand things back to you, Amy.
Thanks so much, Adam. Terrific advice. It always rejuvenates me to step back and think about the big picture of what means success, even for those who've been in the workplace for decades. Really appreciate those insights. I'm also so pleased to have Michael Hayes here. He's an alum of the Washington Semester Program who studied foreign policy maybe about 10 or so years ago. He's gone on to hold leadership positions with the Department of State. He's been in consulting. He's worked in government and the private sector. And his varied backgrounds also, they include a lot of his hard work and knowledge that he gained from AU, as well as his alma mater, Clark Atlanta University. He also holds degrees and he's taken classes at Columbia, Sciences Po, Oxford, and Princeton. So he stands in this a level of greatness that many of us aspire to. He has a lot of wisdom from his collective experience, and his stories from his time at Washington Semester always rivet me to my seat. I'm so honored and pleased to have Michael here today to impart some wisdom. I'm now going to pass it over to Michael for his own introduction and to give you some words of wisdom on how he made his Washington Semester Program work for him. Thank you so much, Michael.
Well, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? Can I get a thumbs up? Am I good in volume? Okay, I didn't want to be speaking and I was muted. So hello, everyone. How are you? It's so great to be here to speak. When she says that kind of this was a major kind of milestone and stepping stone in my educational and professional career, it's absolutely correct. AU and specifically the Washington Semester Program has really kind of changed the trajectory of what I was thinking. It gave me my first Washington, D.C. experience. D.C. is my favorite city in the world. And beyond that, it gave me an opportunity to work in Washington, D.C. And then go on to work at the State Department where I am now. When I was in the Washington Semester Program, I was focused on economic development. That was the vertical at the time. And we did a lot of study on regions that I was not really familiar with on the continent of Africa, specifically in South Africa. And we had a chance to go over to South Africa for a couple of weeks and really kind of pin down on some of the things that we were studying. It was a transformational experience to have that travel portion. And even beyond that, kind of in the workup to the final trip, for me to be able to speak to all of my colleagues and regain and retain that network over the years has been tremendous for me. Being able to stay in touch with the faculty and the staff at the Washington Semester Program has really been great. So I would recommend staying in touch with your cohort, getting really to having those conversations with the cohort, as well as the faculty and professors, because the recommendations are there, that network is there, and being able to kind of engage. As a result of the Washington Semester Program, I was able to work in DC for the first time. I worked at the Egyptian Embassy. And this was really an interesting experience because it kind of gave me the other side. I wasn't working for the American government. I was working with the embassy on the other side, working in Washington, DC. That was a tremendous experience to be able to learn another culture, to be able to understand foreign policy from a different perspective, and to be able to work with American companies and American NGOs and Egyptian ones as well, and kind of see the nexus between the two. This really came full circle when I decided to apply and work as a foreign service officer, is what I do now. And all those experiences, getting involved with culture and language and the type of work structures and different ways of working was a really kind of a pathway into what I'm doing now. I've been able to serve overseas in multiple capacities on the continent of Africa in Namibia, as well as in New Delhi, India, and in Mexico. Currently, right now, I'm working with the U.S. mission to the United Nations. I'm staff assistant to Ambassador Thomas Greenfield. And this has been really an amazing experience. Long days, long hours, but really fun. And I have to say that my experience with the Washington semester program and AU has been amazing. You did get an intro from Amy. I'm kind of giving you a tidbit here, and I'm trying to rush through it because my favorite part is being able to take questions from all of you. So please feel free to drop a question in the chat or unmute yourself, and I'm willing to take as many questions as possible so we can just kind of engage. Any questions you have on anything in terms of State Department or private sector or the program, I'm happy to answer. So please, I turn it over to you, Caleb.
Hi, Michael. I'm sure I wanted to ask because I'm actually interning at the Embassy of Egypt right now. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm
Effie,
really.
I said hey.
Yes.
I don't know if Effie's still there. Tell her I said hey.
Yeah, Effie's still there. She's my like direct, like de facto supervisor. She's great. Yeah, I see her all the time. My question for you is like, how would you advise, because obviously, as you know, the Egyptian embassy is very high on security and you're very restricted in where and how you can move throughout the embassy. So how would you advise sort of like networking and developing relationships in that environment? Because it's not really an environment where you can move around freely and talk to people freely because you've got both the movement barrier and sometimes even the language barrier, because not all of them speak very good English.
Yep, no, that's a great question. And it's something that actually I'm dealing with right now up in New York. So as a result of the pandemic and the actual infrastructure of the building, it's not one of those buildings where you can walk around and walk into someone's office. You can just say, hey, or you're just kind of in the hallway and you see someone and you're able to speak with them. I had these same types of challenges when I was working in your role. And what I did is really leaned into the people, right? So the people around me, under the fact that Effie's even there and you have that resource, she knows everyone, that's coming and going. And being able to just express to them that you have an interest in grabbing lunch, grabbing coffee, maybe taking a walk down the street. That's really how I was able to get involved, to the point that I would do lunch a couple times. During lunch, maybe they would go down to the mosque or they would go to different places. So everyone has their schedules, but finding a way to get that 10 minutes, get that 5 minutes. And at the end of those conversations, always saying, hey, would you mind introducing me to someone else, right? Would you mind introducing me to the person in the econ section? Or would you mind introducing me to the person in the political section? And then you're able to kind of build those relationships. Obviously, tech. I mean, sending an email and just, hey, do you have 5 minutes to chat? And really, and I'm sure that you've learned this, in this program, but coming prepared with one or two questions that you really want to dig deep on, your elevator speech about what you're interested in and what you're working on, and seeing what those synergies are and just kind of moving from there.
All right. Thank you.
So lean into the people. And you have a great resource in Effie. Tell her I said, hey, that connection I maintained. I mean, she wrote me a recommendation letter, I think like 3 or 4 years ago. And I was in the program over a decade ago. So those types of relationships are great to hold on to. And congratulations on your internship.
Thank you.
Who else? Are there any other hands? I don't know if Andrew.
Hi.
Hey.
So I guess the thing for me is, what is the best way to transition from industry to industry, right? Like you talk about like embassy work, but say you, as you said, you've gone on to the UN. How does that kind of transition happen? Is it something that you just actively look for? You're looking for the right people to come into contact with? Is it that you build a repertoire of skills? Like what's that process like?
Yeah, no, great question. I think it has a lot to do with what you're interested in, right? That's really been what's guided me. I don't want to give a cliche answer, but really it's kind of like, what am I passionate about at different points in my career, right? So after studying abroad and doing the Washington semester program and kind of getting into like the policy and politics side of it, I wanted to work in the private sector. I wanted to see what that was like. And I went into consulting because I thought it was an industry that was fluid. It was an industry that would require a high level of writing skills and communication, speaking skills. And it was an industry that I would be able to support a lot of different types of projects. That's just my personality. I wanted to get into a job or a career that I can do a lot of different things. And I think really when you're introspective and you kind of figure out what am I into, if it's something with international affairs, fine. Then like, let's look in that. Then you're reaching out to people like me and your support staff there and saying, what type of areas should I be looking at? But I think the starting point is going to be where you are at that time, right? In terms of the skills, to your point, you have a lot of, just by being in this program and the things that you're teaching in this program, you have a lot of the skills that are going to kind of carry you out across a variety of sectors. The skill of listening when you have all these kind of speakers come in, the skill of being participating and being willing to kind of step forward and take chances. And obviously everyone's going to have that. You can read a book and study and get the knowledge, but I think it's kind of like those soft skills, being able to engage with your speakers, being able to ask questions, being willing to learn and listen, because every job that you're going into at the level that you're at, they're not going to expect you to come in and be an expert. They're going to expect someone that is willing to do the work, is a hard worker, and has great communication skills to be able to either listen or communicate or both. So don't feel like you have to be able to give a great speech or anything like that to kind of get involved. But I think it's the willingness to be curious and take that first step.
Thank you.
I want to see how many people I can see. I'm just going to call on somebody. Let's see. I see Spencer, but I also see Abigail, AJ, Alexis, Camila, Drew, Evan, anyone? Jack, John. Oh, there goes Abigail. Oh, Andrew a second time.
Well, I mean, if no one's taking the opportunity.
Olivia, Quinn. All right, Andrew, let's go at it again.
Yeah. So, as someone that's also internationally minded, what's a good skill to cultivate? Something that you find yourself coming back to time and time again, something you're just constantly relying on?
Yeah, for me personally, it's been communication. The ability to communicate effectively through writing and through speech has been extremely important in every single job that I've been in. One or the other is great, both even better. To be able to do that regardless of what you're doing in the international affairs space. Now, if you want to take that a step further, learning a language is great. You know, understanding different cultures is great. It's not like this is the way we do things here and that's it. You know, being willing to kind of listen and understand different cultures and a lot of you already have that experience. You come from that in your household. That is not a thing that you kind of want to hide or put to the side. That is something that you want to put out front, because those values, those things that your parents, they did because they're from a different place, like all those things are extremely valuable in the international affairs space. That's part of your experience and it's something that you should share. AJ, all right, let's see. I don't think my microphone is working, but what does it say? What is your advice on navigating work environments with difficult, big personalities? Great question. Navigating a work environment with big personalities. You know, I think the first thing is, what is my job and how can I complete my job? I think that's one. But to your point, when you're working in a job, you really want to be a great team member. And I think a lot of the times when you're working with big personalities and people, one of the ways to kind of disarm, but more so work together, is asking people how you can help. And I think Adam was mentioning that before. It's like, there are going to be times when you have a lot on your plate, but there are also going to be times when a lot of people have a lot of things on their plate or things that maybe they just can't figure out. And kind of going to people and saying, hey, you know, is there any way that I can help you out? I think that that's an excellent opportunity to not only work with someone, but to be able to spark conversation. and at the very least, get their respect for them to know that they have a reliable team member to work with? Great question. Who else? If you don't want to, Spencer.
Hi.
Hey.
My question is, so I know like the word foreign service officer, like that job title, could you maybe like walk me through what that really looks like, or kind of demystify it for me? Because I know like we can look up like what to do like online with like the like government department website of like, you know, how to take the test and everything, but it seems like everyone that I talk to always has like a different thing to say about it. And I just want like maybe like your opinion on that role.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Everyone's going to have a different answer depending on what they do. So a foreign service officer, or otherwise known overseas as a United States diplomat, at the beginning and end of the day, you're a representative of the government. You're a representative of the president overseas, and you're a representative of your country. So to me, I have the greatest job in the world because I'm able to serve this nation and share my experiences as an American citizen, and push forward and amplify the policies of our administration, whatever that administration may be. But to answer your question a little more specifically, when you're in the foreign service, there are a lot of different things you can do. So maybe you had different answers because you're talking to people that are in different verticals. So there's a management. And if you're a management officer, and I'm going to speak specifically to being overseas, right? The State Department is based in Washington, D.C., so there are a whole bunch of jobs here, but I'll just talk about overseas. If you're a management officer, when we're at our embassies, everything that has to do with management, there are hundreds of jobs, right? Everything from human resources, everything to evaluation, to fixing things, to managing individuals that are focusing on security. Like, there are all different types of verticals with management. When you're dealing with econ or political, you're focusing a lot on the economic situation or the political situation in the country, and you're reporting back to Washington, D.C., the conversations that you've had, or really the political environment, right? So in Argentina, the economic environment is going to be different than in South Africa, right? So you're reporting on what that looks like, and sending that back to Washington, D.C. To inform our decision-making process. When you're working in consular, you're focused a lot on facilitating travel. And with that, it's individuals that are coming to go to school, like at American University, individuals that are traveling for vacation, individuals that are traveling to work in the United States. You're facilitating that process based on the laws, the immigration laws that we have here. So there are a lot of different types of areas, but when you're coming in as a foreign service officer, usually you're a generalist. And when you're a generalist, that means that you can pick a cone that you kind of work towards and go down, but you could also be working in different areas. So you could have a tour as an economic officer where you're strictly reporting on the economic conditions in Windhoek, Namibia, or you can work as a consular officer where you're facilitating travel of H-1B workers from New Delhi to Silicon Valley, right? So you're going to get a lot of answers depending on who you ask and the experiences that they've had. Speaking of that, I mean, I'm working now at the U.S. mission to the United Nations. This is a job that, frankly, I didn't know existed when I entered the Foreign Service. We have a mission in New York, and just how we have missions that are interacting with the country that we're in, our mission in New York is interacting with the United Nations, with over 190 countries, right? And the different challenges and opportunities that are there. So to demystify it fully, you know, I would have to have multiple conversations and really figure out what you're interested in, and we can go deep there. But that's kind of like a general overview of the different areas. I'm not sure if that was helpful.
No, that was great. Thank you.
Okay. So I see Maya and Liam. I think Liam, your hand went up first, but I'd like to pick on Maya. Little misdirection there. How can I help?
Okay. So I was wondering if you could talk about what grad school programs you were in or post undergrad generally before you went into the Foreign Service.
Sure, great. So when I was going through the application process, I was working with, there's a consortium called APSIA. I'm not sure what maybe American Policy Schools for International Affairs or something like that. American University is part of it. But there are a lot of kind of grad schools that are specifically focused on international affairs and policy. I looked at a few of them. I ended up at Columbia University. That's where I pursued my graduate degree in international affairs. Columbia has a great dual degree program with a couple of schools, with London School of Economics and Hertie, as well as Sciences Po. So I did the dual degree program with Sciences Po in Columbia. But really the process it started online, honestly. And then it started just kind of speaking to people on LinkedIn that had gone to the universities and just kind of saying, hey, how was your experience? And really looking within my network for individuals who may have went through different programs and asking about the various experiences and going from there. But in terms of where did I go, it was Columbia, and how did I get there? It's just talking to people. Liam.
Hi, so I wanted to ask, I'm thinking about going into military service. And I was wondering, do you think that would help open any doors, any opportunities into foreign service?
Yeah, so great question. So the short answer is yes. I think that whatever career you would like to pursue, whether it's continuing going into military service or going into military service for a certain amount of time and coming out, the skills that you're going to get from military service are highly sought after for private companies, public companies, and yes, at the State Department. We have a lot of people that are coming from the military that are working in our diplomatic securities, but they're also working as foreign service officers. And they come with a unique set of skills that align greatly with some of the things that that we hold near and dear as a foreign service officer, specifically that representation portion, that reporting portion, that exercising good judgment. All of those things are critical to being able to serve our nation in a diplomatic capacity, and they're all skills that at least the people that I've worked with coming out of the military service have experience doing. Who else do I see? Camila and
like Alice has a question.
Oh, is Alice? Okay, please, Alice.
Hi, Michael. I'm currently working for a political campaign, and I was wondering, how are you able to like be persuasive while still being polite, but still like, you know, getting your point across and getting people to do what you need them to do for you?
Great question. I think if you're working on a political campaign, there may be two ways that they trained you. Maybe one was kind of just providing information, and one was like that conversion aspect, right? And I think you lead with your points, like you lead with the truth, and understanding when you're going in that people are going to make the best decisions for themselves, but really meeting them where they are. And I think a big part of having that conversation, and maybe not going to say persuade or sway someone, but being able to kind of maybe find common ground or mutual ground, or enable people to think different ways, is listening. A lot of people are coming in with, this is the point, this is the truth, this is what makes sense. But when you're able to listen to people, then you'll be able to respond more effectively to some of their concerns, because maybe the facts and figures that are interesting to you may not be what that person cares about, right? It may not be what their experience is. So really listening to what the experience is and kind of building off of that, as opposed to coming in with your own agenda.
Thank you so much.
Other hands. I'm unable to see everyone's hand. So if there's just a hand, just go ahead and unmute yourself or drop it in the chat. Tyler, Sophia, Sam, Rebecca, Nicole, Nicholas, Melody, Matthew Trout, flag in the back. Anyone? Amy, did you have any questions that you wanted to prompt discussion or anything like that?
I think in general, that you've covered kind of these big turning points that we're looking for in Washington semester. I think you've touched on this, but I'm eager even for maybe another couple examples of the way that you have been able to network across so many different sectors when it comes to your background in finance and consulting. And then you are then moving over, I mean, at one point, again, starting with a embassy internship and the way that you've moved through State Department and then other positions. How has networking played a role in helping you to pivot to so many different positions over the years?
Yeah, it's played a great role. And for me personally, the key to that has really been developing real and authentic relationships. For me, when I'm walking into a room, it's not about how many people I'm able to speak with or how many cards I'm able to get and how many emails I'm able to follow up on, but it's really when I'm speaking to people, finding that genuine, those genuine similarities and commonalities. I have a strong belief that when it comes to people, we have more in common than we do apart. And my job when I'm meeting people is really to kind of find what that commonality is. And I say that because when you're talking about overall networking, a lot of it is by chance. A lot of it is by people calling you and saying, hey, this is something that I have over here, is it something you'd like to look at? Or I'm doing this. I remember when we spoke, is that something that you'd consider? A lot of that is there, right? And really, I think a big part of networking is being open, right? You come in and you say, I want a job and I just want to be in finance. Well, great, but that doesn't mean that when you see the person that's working at USAID, that maybe you shouldn't speak to them, right? It's really being open and understanding that everyone's network is large. And in addition to that, people are doing various things, or there may be things that you didn't think about. So really being open to having those conversations, really being open to creating and building on authentic relationships, and following your passion, whatever you're interested in. I guarantee all of you that if there's something that you're passionate about or you have a slight interest in, there's someone on this call that can at least, if they don't know about it, if they can't get you a job, they can at least call or email one person that knows a little bit more, right? So being vocal about those things that you're passionate about, and people are, you'd be surprised that people are happy to help. Last year, when I had a chance to speak with individuals with this at this event, and I'll do it today, I put my personal email in the chat. And I said to everyone, if anyone needs anything, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk. There. If anyone needs anything, I'm happy to talk, reach out. One person reached out, like 40 people on the call, right? That person reached out. We've been talking for over 2 years. We're working on getting him an internship, fellowship. He went to grad school in Paris. All of these experiences that we're talking through. Now he's living in New York and he's interested in USUN. So we met by the USUN 3 days ago from this call. So it's really being able to kind of follow up and just share, hey, I'm interested in this, or hey, you said something that intrigued me, and taking the opportunity to kind of build on those relationships. That's someone who until a few days ago I had never met. He asked a question on this forum. We stayed in touch via email and WhatsApp and text. And he's been able to kind of navigate his career and his next few steps as a result of individuals I've connected him with or conversations that we've had. And I open that same invitation to all of you. Feel free to reach out if there's something you're interested in or something you want to do, because at the very least, I'm happy to connect you with someone else who may know a little more. So when it comes to networking, kind of moving across different sectors, it's really figuring out what you want and then being open to kind of taking that first step and reaching out.
That's such inspiring advice. What I love to hear from you, Michael, is your kind of technical know-how when it comes to how you've navigated your field in international diplomacy and finance, and then also taking it to the next level when it comes to paying it forward and giving back to others. It's truly inspiring to hear your words and hear the advice that you're giving to students. So thank you so very much. Any closing remarks from students or any final questions as we I know Michael told me he has a full schedule today. I don't want to press his schedule too much.
Is Sam at the Portrait Art Gallery?
Maybe.
That's my favorite museum, well, other than the African American Smithsonian. Yeah, great place to study. Great lighting in there. Any last minute questions? Okay, Garrett.
Yeah, just one quick one. So I'm also interested in international affairs. My general topic of interest is conflict prevention and like conflict negotiations. But often, a lot of time, you'll meet people in the field who have regional expertise. They'll pick a specific region. So for someone who wants to focus more topically than regionally, where would you recommend finding the place to start with networking, or what kind of people I should network with? Because it's been hard to find someone focused on that topic specifically rather than someone who's specifically focused on a region.
Yep, you're absolutely right. That's a great question. I think one place you can start is with your professors. There are a lot of great professors in the Washington Semester Program and AU in general that focus on conflict prevention, peace stabilization efforts, and things like that. So that's one area to start with. Think tanks, great place to start with. Government officials that work on that, local officials that work on these different type of functional and topical issues. There's always opportunity to start conversations there. And when you're working, whether it's specifically when State Department, when you're working on the civil side or foreign service side, as I mentioned, a lot of it is general, but once you're in there, you develop expertise, language, and regional, but a lot of that is functional as well. There are functional offices that deal with a whole bunch of regions, but are focused on a certain function. So you have the opportunity to kind of get involved with that in the government and outside of the government as well. But I would start with think tanks. I would start with your professors, and that's a good starting place here in DC or where you are. I'm not going to be able to take all the questions, but I did. Let me make sure it's to everyone. That's my personal email. Anyone has any follow-up questions, didn't get a chance to ask, feel free to reach out. Feel free to stay in touch. I'm happy to engage with you and be able to kind of support you moving forward. You're in an absolutely extraordinary program with even more extraordinary staff. I think I saw Donna on the call, Ms. Chapman on the call there. She has been amazing and been a mentor and supporter since I was in the program. And there are just people like that that are going to always support you and wish you well. Stay connected with one another and with the staff. And I'm always here to answer any questions that you may have moving forward as well.
We are switching gears to talk about pathways to graduate school. We have an auspicious team of colleagues here. We have our leader in Andrew Tosolowski. He will play the role of moderator as our graduate school representatives from the AU School of Public Affairs and also the Kogod School of Business, the AU College of Arts and Sciences, the School of International Service, AU School of Communication, the School of Education, the School of Law, and also from Andrew's very own School of Professional Studies. And you'll get a chance to meet from representatives from all of these different sectors. You'll get a taste of the industry and the education needed for the industries that they represent. We have a wealth of knowledge at AU. The knowledge that you can get here will help you in your applications to graduate school, in your search for finding the right fit, for identifying potential scholarships and financial aid. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Andrew and to our great panel of graduate school professionals. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Amy. Happy to be here and happy to be representing the Office of Graduate and Professional Studies. As Amy said, my name is Andrew Tosolowski. I am the Director of Graduate Student Success in the Office of Graduate and Professional Studies. So I work very closely with a lot of the folks that you're going to meet today to support the graduate student experience. So how do we make that exactly what you want it to be during your time at American University? So I'll let everybody from each of the schools and colleges introduce themselves. And what I'll do is I will, let's see, I'll go by the order I see folks on the screen. So let's do the School of Public Affairs first.
Thank you, Andrew and Amy, for having us here. I am Jennifer Forney. I am the Assistant Dean of Graduate Enrollment for the School of Public Affairs. And we have an array of master's degrees, PhD degrees, a couple executive degrees, a couple of online degrees. So lots to talk about as you consider what that next step might be for you. So thank you for allowing me to be on the panel and hope I can be helpful.
Thank you, Jennifer. And just for a little bit more context for our students on the call, what we'll do is we'll have every school introduce themselves. We'll move into a period of question and answers, and then we'll allow for some time in breakout rooms so you can talk to the individual school leaders to learn more about specific programs or opportunities or things like that that you didn't have a chance to ask in this general session. So thank you, Jennifer. So next up, let's do the School of Communication.
Great, thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Amy, as well for having us today. My name is Brandon Ferry. I'm the Graduate Admissions Recruitment Coordinator here in the School of Communication. And in the School of Communication, we do have an array of degrees, graduate degrees in film media arts, journalism, public communication, and communication studies. So we're really excited to speak more on that today on the panel, as well as during the breakout room as well.
Thank you, Brandon. Next up, Kogod School of Business.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deborah Armstrong. I am an Assistant Director of Admissions for the Kogod School of Business. I think I met a couple of you a few weeks ago, so nice to see you again. So we offer a wide variety of Masters of Science programs. We have 7 different ones in anything from marketing to finance to real estate, as well as a few online degrees and our kind of our signature program, which is our full-time MBA program. So hope to get to speak to some of you again later.
Thank you, Deborah. Next up, let's do the School of International Service.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Matthew Forrester Smith, and I am with the School of International Service, or SIS, at American University. We're probably a great fit for folks who are interested in working in the various careers that one could have in international affairs. Rather than having just one generalized program, our approach was to have more than 15 different graduate programs that focus on specific areas within the international relations field. So we've got something for folks interested in foreign affairs, foreign policy, to folks who are interested in conflict resolution, and a little bit of everything there in between. So I look forward to meeting the rest, meeting you all today and chatting more in the breakout rooms.
Thank you very much. The College of Arts and Sciences.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Laurel Semple. I'm the Assistant Director of Graduate Enrollment for the College of Arts and Sciences here at AU. We have a wide array of programs. I think currently we have over 50 graduate certificates, masters, and PhD programs. I specifically work with a lot of STEM programs, and I work with a lot of our international students. So happy to answer any questions you have there, but happy to be here.
Thank you, Laurel. Next up, the School of Education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Max Kutch. I am a graduate program coordinator at the School of Education, working with our graduate teacher ed programs. We have a wide variety of master's degrees, both online and in person, that would be happy to go over, as well as a number of certificate programs and an online doctoral program that we can elaborate on a little bit. And I'm also joined by another one of our coordinators, Kat Felter.
I look forward to meeting some of you all.
Thank you, Max and Kat. And last but certainly not least, the Washington College of Law. No WCL today?
They must have had a conflict at the last minute.
No worries. Well, then I'll wrap us up with the Office of Professional Studies. So part of the graduate programs office is the Office of Professional Studies. And I think the best way to think of the programs that we offer are interdisciplinary programs that don't necessarily fit very cleanly into another school or program. So it's things like sports analytics and management, healthcare management, human resources. We also offer certificate programs focused on healthcare management, human resources, project monitoring and evaluation, and things like that. And these are all online programs that are designed for working professionals. So it's a really great way to either enhance or complement the work that you're already doing out in the workforce. So now I'll turn it over to you all, students, to see what questions you have, either specifically for one of the schools that's here today, or just generally about admissions to graduate school.
To warm up our student audience, I'm just going to tee it up with one question that I hear all the time. And that is, how do you write your essay to make the best match as you're trying to get into this prestigious school at AU? So what's the best way to approach your personal essay or personal statement?
There is a wealth of expertise on the panel, so I'm sure everybody can jump in, but I'll jump in right away and just offer some tidbits, and then I hope my colleagues will follow up. I think important to share that this is often called a personal statement, and I think understanding that label on the statement is something you need to hang on to. So one, understand who your audience is. You always need to understand who the decision makers are on your file. Oftentimes it is faculty-driven admission process, but there are times where senior level administrators or general administrators are making decisions, but you as a prospective student need to know who you're writing that statement for. Again, not to be comprehensive, the next thing I would offer to you is make sure you know the college, school, department, and the program specifically that you're writing the statement for. Believe me, when you read enough files in your professional life, you can tell if a statement has been written for a number of schools and they're just simply switching out the name of that institution. Instead, remember that school wants to know that you know them very well. So do your research, make sure you zero that statement in for your audience and for the individual program, school, department, college, whatever it is, so they know that you are interested in them. What else do you guys have to offer?
I'll second that, Jennifer. I mean, we call ours our statement of purpose. And so really, if you think of your resume as everything you've done in the past, think of your statement of purpose as everything you're hoping to do with this degree, what you're hoping to accomplish and how it's going to get you there. And most of our faculty, while they're faculty, are also professionals in their field. They're out there doing research. They're still publishing. They're working with other scholars in their field. So look into that and say, you know, I see that Professor X is doing these interesting research into something that shares your similar research, and really kind of state that. You don't have to be long and florid about it, but if you make a note that shows that you've done your research and you've seen what the faculty are doing within your field, and it's something that applies to you, I think that's a terrific point to make.
And I'll go next just to add on to that. I think what Jennifer mentioned earlier about remembering that the word personal is in this, a personal statement. And I always counsel people to view it as an opportunity to tell us your story. And I think you can view stories as having past, present, and future. So your past is where you can maybe bring up some of the experiences that you have that relate to the program that you're applying to. The present can be why you're ready to embark upon a graduate program right now, and where there might be some tie-ins between your interests and what the school is known for, or what you might be able to study. And I think looking to the future, what you might not have a perfect vision of that just yet, but maybe talking a little bit about where you see yourself working in your field of choice, and how this program will help be the foundation for you to have that meaningful career that you're looking for. To really help us to get to know you, in this personal statement, and draw as many connections between your awesome accomplishments and what you're hoping to achieve within the specifics of that particular program.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to follow up on that as well. I mean, all those points as well, but just speaking as somebody who was a former applicant to one of our grad programs here, one of the film programs, really, I would say just, spend some time on it, have it reviewed by a number of eyes, not only yourself, but I think, speaking of my, just my background, I feel like when I was doing it, reading that over and over, to stop making sense after a while. So I feel like having people, some extra eyes, whether that be, friends, family members, perhaps, if you have access to university reading center as well. I think just being able to ensure it's a really pristine document, but it's still very passionate and conveys your story and gets that admissions committee excited about who you are as an applicant, I think can really set you apart from other applicants as well.
I think the only thing that I would add, because everyone has had some really great advice so far, is just to also ensure that you answer the prompt. Different schools may have different prompts. I know, for instance, ours is pretty simple, short and long-term career goals following the program, but I think that some people, similarly to, I forget who said it prior, but students, submitting similar essays to similar schools, different schools may have different prompts. So you may need to go back and edit that a little bit to ensure that you're answering each school's specific prompt.
And Deborah, we'll keep you on the spot here to start off our next question. How might you advise somebody who's not sure if they want to do in-person or online studies?
Yeah, that's definitely something that's super important to think about, especially now. I think there's probably more online programs than really there may have been even 5 years ago, due to, the state of the world over the past 3 to 5 years. So I think that that's one of the first most important decisions that you need to make. And a lot of times you may be able to get a similar program, but either an online or an in-person option. I think it's important to sometimes speak with the school specifically to understand what are the differences. Because, for instance, I'll use our program as an example because I know it best, but there may be an online MBA program or the in-person. So it's important to understand exactly what the differences are going to be between those two programs. Obviously, other than just in-person interaction, there could be other differences in curriculum, differences in the faculty teaching the classes even. So there may be more differences than just the obvious difference of it being fully online or fully in person.
I'd actually like to add to that also. At SOE, we have a couple of programs. Our EPL program, one of our MAT programs, we do have parallel online and in-person offerings. And while they are very, very similar in a lot of ways, it's really important if you're making sort of a binary choice between two that offer, for example, the same certification, that you do understand they're similar in all these ways, but how are they different? A lot of graduate degrees will encompass some sort of placement or practicum or pro seminar or some sort of element where it has some type of in-person element. For our programs, that can be done where you're located, but of course it pays to look ahead towards the tail end of the program. That's extremely specific, and everyone here has a best handle on their school and how that works for them. For us, for teaching, it's extremely specific in that you're going to be doing observation, you're going to be doing student teaching. Those are things that cannot be done fully online, cannot be done fully asynchronously. So it's really important to know your program, and then even if it is on an online program, know what type of online program it is. Is it a rigid schedule? Is it flexible? Are there any asynchronous courses? How important is that cohort feeling to you? All those different things are going to really impact your experience as a student, and schools are happy to discuss the differences between those with you. So it definitely pays to be informed and understand, especially if you're choosing between functionally identical programs in terms of certification.
Other things that folks have to add about online versus in-person education?
I would say really reflect on yourself as a learner, and how you work and learn and discuss, and how you've done, like how you did during the pandemic. If you were in a program or learning online, working online, and what feels best for you. Like, do you like that in-person discussion? Do you like, to feel the energy of a room, or do you like the flexibility of, calling in and having some asynchronous work? So really reflect on yourself.
Yeah, and I would follow up with that as well. Although we only offer one online program, the rest are on campus. We still, say school communication has an array of part-time as well as weekend programs and full-time schedules. So I think, to piggyback everybody's saying is, I think just knowing what kind of learner you are, how you're best going to organize your schedule. Maybe you're going to look at, maybe working part-time or full-time during your graduate studies. Maybe that means you prefer to have a Saturday class or an evening class versus one that's traditional between 9 and 5. So I think it comes down to just looking at your schedule, knowing that a grad program could be a year, 2 years or longer, and being appropriately organized for that. So, you're not really given half to either one of those. That's school as well as professional, and, a little bit just day-to-day life as well.
Thank you all. As students are weighing whether or not they even want to go to graduate school, what are some factors that folks should reflect on or think about while making that decision?
Andrew, thank you for the question. I think this is something that is really one of the most pressing concerns for a prospective student. And I think we all on the panel would agree that this is a very personal decision. But I'll offer a few thoughts. One, something I always say, I am a strong believer that you get dumber as you get older. I think I'm allowed to say that. Once you get further and further away from school, meaning testing, for instance, and writing and so forth, the further and further that you get away, it gets tougher to, I think, immerse yourself again. And I'll say personally, life takes off, which may start limiting some of your options as you move forward, be it significant others or choices in your life. Now, does this mean you have to go to graduate school right after your undergraduate experience? I don't mean that at all. But I think you definitely want to be careful to not let too much time go by that perhaps your choices start getting limited about this next important step. I feel very strongly that all of you could have a job right now. We are very talented to even be here in this program. That is clear, but you're not here for a job. You are here to find a meaningful career. I believe that advanced education is going to afford that opportunity for you to wake up every day and do something that you enjoy and that you find meaning in. So that advanced degree, I believe, is a key piece of your journey. So I am a huge advocate of within 2-3 years. I know some of my colleagues here in the panel may speak to a professional experience requirement. So being aware of that is important, but there's some programs, for instance, all of ours, we don't have that requirement for our students. So students can make the choice very early in their academic journey to onboard with our graduate programs.
And if I could just piggyback off of Jennifer, I would, to the professional experience requirement, definitely do your research into that, because for instance, in our school, we have some of our programs that are very much tailored to going right into it after you graduate from undergraduate. And then we do have a program that, you know, really you become competitive after 3 to 5 years of working experience. So I think it really, I would just say, do your research into what you're looking to do to make your application as competitive as you can, regardless of what you want to go into, to ensure that you're really kind of hitting the sweet spot for what you apply to that.
This actually meshes really well with an earlier question about the statement of purpose or personal statement, because they're going to overlap a great deal. As you're thinking through, hopefully, if you're writing it correctly, you should be thinking sort of critically through writing your personal statement, sort of telling your own story to the school, and it should become, you know, evident to us, evident to you, why you're choosing to pursue the specific graduate degree, what you're hoping to gain. And of course, again, this is something that's going to vary very heavily by schools. Some of us have already talked about professional experience requirements and the lack of those. Some graduate programs, I know specifically in the School of Ed, they lead to a very specific career certification. You know, ours lead to teacher licensure, and teacher licensure is geographically bound. Now, of course, it's transferable, but that's an important thing to look at. For example, you know, if you're going to come to one of our on-campus programs and you live in Nebraska and you intend to teach in Nebraska, and you move to DC to go for a couple of years for graduate teacher education, you get a teaching certification. It's going to be for, you know, it's going to be easier to transfer around here into the DMV area. You could transfer it to Nebraska, but you have to have sort of thought through that process if it is one of those that has a more precise output for career certification. And the great thing about graduate school is that it's, you know, as you can see, there's a ton of variety as for the types of programs, for the type of demands that it has. And so luckily some of that reasoning as you're writing should sort of go hand in hand.
Thank you all. Rebecca, I see you have a question, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, since it's such a new field, if there's any programs for data analytics, and if so, if you could briefly describe what that might be.
Deborah, that's you.
Yeah, so we actually offer a Master's of Science in analytics. So please join me in the breakout room. Happy to tell you all about it. It's actually one of our most popular programs this year. So you get a lot of great experiential learning opportunities, different analytics languages, several that you're taught. So join me in the breakout room.
And the College of Arts and Sciences and the School of Public Affairs have a joint program in data science. So if you have any questions about that too, happy to talk to people about the master's and the certificate in data science.
Another question for the panel. What do you think is the most interesting job that you've seen a graduate of your school take, or who is the most interesting alumni, or maybe both?
I think,
go ahead, Jennifer.
Just quickly, I think I was just going to comment, boy, you really want to get us caught with the array of programs we all have to pick out probably the most interesting or program and or alum, because we all have wonderful stories to tell. Again, if I know this is being recorded, so I'll probably get caught here. I am intrigued by it's called our Master of Science in Terrorism and Homeland Security Policy program, in that the students that we have the privilege to work with and to advance their skill set often go and do very fascinating things that we can't know a lot about, meaning they need to have very serious security clearances, and they work in very exciting places. And again, much of their work they cannot share openly. So I am just intrigued with perhaps their placements in intelligence agencies, CIA, FBI, State Department, DOJ. And so these are very interesting alumni to me. How about others?
Yeah, I would say for ours, I'm just thinking by division, for our film media arts division. I've been really impressed by those who decide to either go to West Coast or stay in the East Coast as well. Just top of my head, somebody that we utilize a lot for the alumni panel, just because she's so fantastic at conveying what she does. She's a visual effects editor for Disney Plus shows, specifically working for Marvel Studios. So I know recently she had to jump off really early from one of our alumni panels because she was wrapping up, I believe it was WandaVision at the time. So really exciting jobs in that manner. But I think just within the DC area, a lot of journalists that maybe started out in the school communication in one of the Washington Post practicums or Washington Post fellowship, then going on to write for the Washington Post or another publication that is that well known and that well respected too.
And from the SIS perspective, as I mentioned earlier, we have more than 15 programs. So I couldn't possibly pick just one or highlight just one out of all of them. But some ones that I think seem unique to us in American University that maybe a lot of other graduate programs don't have is our International Peace and Conflict Resolution program, which tends to be really popular. We have two programs that focus on the environment and how that plays a role in international affairs work. So we have a global environmental policy program, as well as a dual degree program that works with the UN University of Peace in Costa Rica called Natural Resources and Sustainable Development. And as our work with the environment becomes more and more important, that those programs I think tend to become more and more popular over the years. So those are some ones that I think are really interesting. To speak generally though, I think our students are really well-rounded at the point of graduation and are able to take their degrees in different directions. And I think having that agility is really important. So you don't feel like you are forced down one particular path that you have to stay in, but rather having the skill set and the agility to apply to different types of job opportunities and be competitive in different types of job opportunities is really important. So SIS graduates work in places like the Institute of Peace, the State Department, the Department of Defense, Department of Justice, NGOs, nonprofits, etc. So I think our students are able to take the flexibility of their degree and apply it to different types of opportunities.
I guess oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Deborah.
I was just going to say, I guess to pivot off of that, similarly, I mean, we have students who go into for-profit, not-for-profit, large corporations, small startups, but I'm always really impressed by the number of entrepreneurs that we have coming out of a lot of our programs. And I remember I was just reading about one of our alumni the other day who recently not only started her own business as an entrepreneur, but is helping other entrepreneurs, both from COGOD and other schools who are more marginalized entrepreneurs, to get financial funding to start their businesses. So kind of then giving back after she started her own business. So it's always really cool to hear about our students who go off and kind of start their own company, as well as, several students who go on to join other companies.
And who springs to mind is a recent graduate of ours, Johanka Delgado, and she got her master's in fine arts and creative writing. And she is now the Stegner Fellow at Stanford University and is also a fellow for the National Endowment of Arts and has just really skyrocketed. She just co-wrote a book with Janelle Monáe called The Memory Librarian. And she's really just she's also a very good friend of mine from undergraduate. So giving her that extra boost there. But if you get a chance to read some of her short fiction, she's been published in the Paris Review, and all around, she's just phenomenal. But again, like everyone else said, we have almost 60 programs for the College of Arts and Sciences. So to name one, I would have to then go into computer science and anthropology and studio art. So there's really just a plethora of amazing alumni out there.
Well, most of the alumni that I work with go on to be teachers for obvious reasons, which I think is a very interesting job. But I'll just highlight one. Actually, as a matter of fact, Kat, my colleague, is an AU SOE graduate, so she's an interesting one as well. But for example, there's all kinds of stories from folks teaching in places from South Korea, and then of course all over the United States, internationally, and some of that's the stuff they're doing is really incredible. One really cool example is Rita Carter Schmidt. She graduated from our MAT program, and she's come back. She was a teacher at School Without Walls in DC for a while, and she was also an adjunct professor with us. So I got to work with her, which is why I'm bringing her up. And she's now working at the Department of Education. So she's moved through teaching in a couple different ways, and now more into the policy side. So you know, I think it's always great seeing what some of the students that have moved through go on to do, because sometimes it's really unexpected.
Thanks for lifting up like our international aspect of SOE, Max. There's a program, master's program through SOE that focuses primarily on international education, as well as a few of our programs really hone in on the anti-racist policies and that are necessary to bring more educational equity into our schools and school systems. So there's some amazing work happening at the community level and the policy level that is kind of outside of the classroom realm as well.
Thank you all. Let's see. What would you say is the primary difference between undergraduate and graduate study?
I can just start with saying the difference between graduate and undergraduate admissions. I think a lot of people, maybe when they're just starting the process, don't realize how different it is. You know, when you apply to undergrad, there's the common application, it goes in, there's the entire admissions office. The admissions office kind of decides who comes and who doesn't. When you get into graduate school, it's much more streamlined, right? It's much more focused on which program you're in. So a lot of cases, it'll be the faculty who's deciding. So I'm here to help you. I'm here to answer all your questions. I'm here to help you get things uploaded, but I'm not the one who decides if you're a good fit for the MS in chemistry, because I'm not a chemist. So that goes to the experts in the field. So I think that's just something to keep in mind for the application process itself, but I'll let everybody else weigh in.
I would say it's a lot shorter. So a lot of, a graduate program may only be 1, maybe 2 years, whereas you have, a full 4 on average years spent in undergrad. So the time flies a lot quicker. So whenever you're submitting the application and they're asking questions about what do you want to do after the program or things like that, you might be thinking, wow, I haven't even started the program. But a lot of times the reasoning behind that is because the program is so quick that we kind of already ask students to have a little bit of an idea of, what they even hope to do after the program, just because it's so quick.
I'll add that in general, undergrad tends to be a little bit more generalized. We will take some courses that help sort of with your just general foundational knowledge. And graduate school is going to be much more specialized. And it's helpful to know that sort of career path that you want to go down when you're thinking about the specific graduate program that you're hoping. So you will have classes that are typically just focused on that one sort of path that you're hoping to go down. And as you're researching different graduate schools and programs, I think you should look for skill building opportunities. And I think that's one of the other big differences. So those practical opportunities. Are there options to do an internship? Things that might help to kind of pave that path for the career that you're looking for.
I also think it'll be really exciting for all of you to make this next choice, that the relationship, I believe, with faculty at the graduate level also distinctly changes. You now have chosen their field. You are now colleagues in the same field. And what that opens up is the very exciting opportunity for exchange. So your faculty will very much care about what you think. And I know all of you care a lot about learning, again, or you wouldn't be here, but that is really exciting to be in an environment with your peers in the program that are all committed to the field, and then your faculty recognizing and respecting you and very eager to hear from you about what your insights are. So it creates a wonderful classroom experience of exchange and collaborative learning. that I think is really enjoyable and adds to the learning process for everyone.
Yeah, and I think to differ a little bit more from undergrad, I think really comes down to that organization standpoint of really knowing, you'll be able to, I'd say, attain everything you really can within a given week when it comes to processing some time and being really allocating the resources to do so. But I think while not only just chasing your academics, but as a lot of my colleagues mentioned, just being able to network during grad school, I think is going to be of the utmost importance, because having a degree in hand at the end of the day is going to be great. But if you're not able to secure a career right out of the door, I think it's in your best interest and time to do exceptionally well in classes, get to know guest lecturers, get to know adjuncts and tenors alike. Just speak from my own point of view right now, that I'm finding myself getting coffee with professors I really enjoyed their, not only their backgrounds, but their class themselves. That opens you up to a lot of, networking connections during and after grad school as well. So I think, yeah, absolutely, just kind of taking advantage of everything you possibly can during grad school while paying that tuition, I think is in your best interest.
To talk a bit about the specificity also, because you're in that more focused program, again, grad school, there's a variety of different sizes of different kinds of programs, length, all those different things. But I think something that's relatively common is that because you're in this extremely specific endeavor with your peers, it's not like, an undergrad when you're a freshman and you're in a lecture course and the person next to you is majoring in economics and the person next to you on the other side is majoring in early childhood education or something. You're embarking towards, in most cases in your course, a very similar sort of thing, which makes your cohort and your peers such an important resource. I can speak to my graduate experience, for example. The people that I graduated with, my cohort through my grad program, we talk to each other all the time. We send each other professional recommendations. You work, and it's really important, depending on the size of your program and the type of thing that you're going for, to make sure that, you recognize that networking is not something that has to be done outside of the classroom, because you're going into the same field as these people. You're going into, in many cases, going to work in the same area, same industry, or even the same geographic city. So you never know when you'll cross paths with folks that you're in graduate school with again. And it's so important to start that network. And again, they're going to be both hopefully friends, but also highly relevant professional connections. And I think that's something that should definitely be appreciated about graduate school as well.
Thank you all. We'll take one more question and then we'll move into our breakout rooms. I think this is a good question to end on. But what is, let's say a student has been admitted to your program. What is one thing that you hope they take advantage of during their time in your school?
I can start. So I would say our Office of Career Engagement. We always say that they are your partner in crime, but it really is a partnership. So you are going to get as much out of it as you put into it. But I'm sure a lot of the schools have their own career resources, but it's people who are there to really partner with you to help you be successful after graduation and finding employment. So, we have students who partner with them a lot and students who partner with them not a lot. Definitely, I always encourage students, they're a great resource to utilize.
I was going to mention our career office as well. We have one within SIS, and the more that you interact with them, the more opportunities that you know of, and the more things that you can take advantage of. Beyond that, though, I always like to tell people, take advantage of getting to know your classmates. The student body at SIS is so wonderfully rich and diverse, and people come from different backgrounds with different perspectives and lived experiences. I just think the more that you can learn about other people, the more informed that you can be, in our case, as a practitioner in international affairs. So collaborate with each other, learn from each other, and get to know sort of the differences and the beauty in those differences that we have amongst our student body. And I think we have almost 20% international students. So it's great to get to know what other people from other countries are studying and prioritizing and different things like that. So yes, we have a wonderful resources in our different offices at SIS, but I think our people are our greatest resource. And I really think that the more that you can get to know your classmates and your faculty members as well, I think that you will take so much out of those relationships.
I think I'll echo again what Matthew has said, but CAS is about 20%, a little more international students. But I would say the biggest thing to take advantage of is the city where we're located. We're in Washington, D.C., right? And so everything is just open to you. And the world's your oyster here in this city. It's such an international city. It's so diverse. It has so many different opportunities, whether it's the Smithsonian's or the NIH. I mean, all of these things are great. And the faculty will be there to help you with these internships, to put you in touch with interesting alumni and where they're working now. So just take advantage of the city where we are. There's so much to offer.
And maybe I'll close then with get involved with student organizations and clubs and things like that. You know, some folks view that as solely an undergraduate activity, but there's a lot of graduate focused student organizations as well, including governance organizations like student government and things like that. So if you are involved now, continue to stay involved. If you're not involved now, definitely something I recommend you do during your graduate study.